Hello, everybody. Today I want to talk about purpose. So, purpose is important, right? I think we all generally understand that. I think we oftentimes associate our goals with purely motivation. Hey, I'm motivated to do this. I want to do it because of X, Y, and Z. This is cool. This is, would be nice to have. If I'm going for money, then, maybe I'm motivated for a small period of time. But I think we all kind of understand that, hey, motivation is fleeting. Motivation itself is not really going to get you very far. Maybe in the short term, yes, but in the long term, no. So, what holds us together? What binds everything and really pushes us to do something for an extended period of time? I have a business. I've run it for 4.5 years. How does one do that? Why does one do that? It's because of purpose. I have a purpose. I feel like I have a higher calling, and I really take that seriously and have convinced myself that this is something I need to do. Not just something I want to do, not something that's, motivating because of, um, status or material things necessarily. And I'm not saying those are bad. I'm not saying those are, not things that should be strived for. However, I don't think it's going to get you very far on a long scale of time. So I think everybody should be focusing on what's the purpose and really going into that. What's helped me is and I say, maybe I've run a business for 4.5 years. I've run this a business for 4.5 years, okay? Almost five. It wasn't just when I started doing it that got me to be successful. It's the 5 years before that that got me to where I need to be, right? That pushed me, that helped build up a foundation that allowed me to do it for 4.5 years, that allowed me to continue building and go through the everyday and be okay with that and be okay with being alone and be okay with having no friends and be okay with, all these things, all these negative things that I run into and all these challenges that I run into, right? And continuing it all anyway. And I think that's kind of the foundation of anything. If you really want to accomplish something, if you're going to dedicate, not necessarily your whole life, but a large portion of your life or a core portion of your life. I mean, a lot of people would say that their late teenage years, their early 20s, mid 20s, 20s in general are a prime time of their life, and I agree. I think that's a prime time of your life, but I am using it as a hey, because I have all this energy, because I'm physically capable, because, I'm able to take risks and I'm not overly committed to anything necessarily in my life. I use that to my advantage and to propel myself forward. And I feel the responsibility to, hey, I've been given, and so have everybody else that's, made it to this age and onward. I've been given an opportunity to take advantage of all of these things. So I need to, right? And part of that is exactly what I'm saying. It comes with purpose. And you have to understand, you have to look at things and think through things on a deeper level. And I think that's what leads me to the most success. And I think that has led me and has driven me through doing something every day. I mean, doing the same thing every day, especially when you're working on a skill, especially when you're working on, it's easy for me to say a business, but let's say working out, right? I mean, you're in your worst shape at the beginning. So it's going to be very hard to look in the mirror and go, yeah, this is great. Or yeah, I look awesome. You're not. You're going to look like shit. You're going to look very bad to start, right? 9 times out of 10. And you're going to have to face that. And that's a hard thing. But you got to tie yourself to your purpose and say, this is reality. This is what it is. But I need to get farther. And the way that I get farther is by continuing doing this. And that's why I think everything needs to be rooted in what's your purpose. A lot of people will lead back to religion. Okay, well, if you believe in God, if you believe in anything, then there's got to be some motivating factor there. And you can work through other things, other beliefs through that core belief. And that's why, if you say, hey, I'm a Christian, then the Bible would be a good guide of, hey, you believe this because of X, Y, and Z. You believe this because of, that, and da 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 da. And, that's something that you should invest in. If you're going to go around saying you believe something, you need to have a strong understanding of what that is you believe, because it's going to be challenged. And this isn't just like religion. Everybody has those conversations. I'm talking about internally as an individual, as an individual person. The hardest battle is going to be with your mind, right? So you need to train your mind, and you need to say, okay, I'm here. I want to be here, right? How do we make up this difference? How long is it going to take? And what is going to propel me and push me to make it up there? Because it's not going to be easy. It's never going to be easy if you're striving for anything great, okay? When you're going for something great, when you're trying to build something massive, when you're trying to make an impact on people, whether that's, everybody, whether that's like external people, your family, or even just for yourself, it's not going to be easy. You're never going to reach excellence easily. Okay. So we need to understand, why do we think these things and how do we think through it? Right. I'll give you an example. When I was in, and this is just a simple example. When I was in middle school, right, I understood that, hey, I'm not great at socializing. I'm not great at talking to people. I don't really talk to people. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm going to set these little goals of, hey, I'm going to talk to X amount of new people today. So I went and talked to 5, 10 new people every day. Hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing? How's your day going? What's your name? Just short conversations, right? But this is character development, and this is what we need to be focusing on. And what ties us all back to that, back to the character development, and kind of what where we source it from, is going to be our purpose. So what's your purpose? What are your responsibilities? What do you feel, you need to do? And as a man, for me, I feel I need to protect, I need to provide. So those are two very big motivating factors for me, because they're purposeful. The reason I'm alive, the reason I'm here, is to protect and provide. Those are the two core things. We may have other things, have smaller, hey, this is important as well, whatever. If I don't protect or provide, then I'm failing, like, entirely. And I've ingrained that in my mind and thought it through of, what happens if I don't? And you can reverse it like that. Obviously there are good results of, going to the gym, or, making some money. We can all look at that and say, those are good things, but what's the downside if you don't do that? And if you don't pursue those? Well, if I don't protect, then, my whole family could die. I mean, that's not a good thing, right? So some people are easily motivated by, I'd say this is most people. Most people are easily motivated by the positive results of doing something. But I think a lot of people are afraid of, or don't want to face, the negative. And I think the negative is really where it pushes people. If you say, if you don't do this, you could be overpowered and you could be the reason. Because if you had the opportunity to protect people and to, let's do working out, for example. If you had the opportunity to work out every day and you just said no, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. But then you're overpowered by a little much, by the wrong person, and then they kill your whole family. It's really kind of your fault, because you could have prevented it by just not being lazy, right? So you have to kind of think negatively like that and say, what's the worst case scenario? Well, I really want to prevent that. I can't let that happen no matter what. If you're saying I can't let that happen no matter what, not even 0.001% chance of that happening, I need to eliminate that entirely. Then the way that you do that is by going through the day-to-day and saying, hey, I am going to work out every day. Hey, I am going to give 100%. And hey, this is a priority for me. I don't care how I feel. You know what I mean? And that comes with, protecting and providing. This is my example, right? So we've done protecting, but we're also going to providing. So providing, there are things I could do that are less risky, that will, keep me safe, but it also won't, it'll stunt my growth, right? Growing is hard, especially in business. If you're in a business and you're saying, let's say you made $1 million. Okay, I made $1 million. Holy shit, right? Well, you can put that million back into the company and keep reinvesting and reinvesting, and maybe the next year, because let's say this is on an annual basis. Let's say you made $1 million in a year, and you could stay there. You could stay at, make $1 million a year. Make $1 million a year, and these are large numbers. Like, this is life changing money, yes, but this is just an example. Let's do an easier one, actually. $100,000. You make $100,000 in a year, and you're saying, okay, that's not bad. It's not bad. It's good, but you can go further, right? So if you reinvest the $100,000, then the next year you can make $200,000, but you're gonna have like no money in your bank, like throughout the entire year. This is how it goes. You're gonna have like no money in your bank the entire year because of the 100K you're making. You're just pushing it back out, reinvesting. Okay, so if you're doing that, the next year you'll make 200K. Okay, that's good. Now we're making 200,000 annually. Well, okay. If I put that back in, maybe I'll make 400K the next year. Okay, well, you do that again, you're going to be dead broke for a very long time. This is delayed gratification. I think we're all aware of what that is to a degree, right? Just putting it off for the long-term goal and thinking very long-term, especially when you're a younger person. I think this is vital. Because it's very easy to say, I'm going to blow the money. You know what I mean? I made money. I'm just going to buy a Rolex. I'm just going to buy a nice car, And those things aren't bad necessarily. But, if they're coming at the detriment of your growth and stunting you and slowing you down, then that is bad. So, yeah, I mean, it's like that. You could have a good year. You can feel less stressed if you take less risk. But if you take more risk, you can get further, you can grow more, you know what I mean? And obviously there's a controlled aspect to that. There's and you need to be intelligent about the way you do it, and we can get into all those nuances. But the major point I'm trying to make here is that you need to be rooted in some sort of purpose if you want to get anywhere meaningful anyway. So that's why I think the first step to success, the first step to actually getting somewhere and achieving great things is going to be sitting down, thinking through your purpose. It can be one or multiple. Like I said, I named a couple, but naming them, thinking through them, and then putting them in practical situations, but also not only positive circumstances, but also negative circumstances, because you need to be able to combat that internally. Your mind is gonna know how to get you. It's gonna know how to cater to your feelings, right? So you need to really drill it in of, hey, this is what's important to me and this is what's not because of this. And that's why I say you need to utilize the negativity. The negative possibilities are what's really going to prevent you from being okay with catering to your emotions and being comfortable. Because if I don't think about any negatives and I say, well, I feel like just eating a shit ton of pizza and ice cream tonight. I mean, you're probably going to do that. But if you think, well, if I'm not able to run away or fight off somebody that's trying to kill my family, then you're probably going to go, okay, it's not worth it. The fucking pizza and ice cream means nothing. It's only catering to my feelings and it's not actually benefiting me at all. And I'm not saying that's like inherently bad, eating any of those things, but you need to be intelligent and understand what your goals are. So, thinking about those things internally and setting up a good foundation. And this is why I advocate for everybody to go to the gym, because it builds discipline, especially when you're younger. And maybe you don't know what your goals are. Maybe you're not like, this is the exact life path I'm going to take. Not everybody's going to know that, especially at a younger age, but you can still build a core foundation of, these are my values. This is my purpose. You know what I mean? And how that plays out, I don't know yet, but this is what I stick to. And this is how I logically think through things, and whether, this is worth it or not, you know what I mean? And where I stand morally. So hopefully that makes sense. I really think the years prior to actually going in on, what the big endeavors and big goals are, is going to be vital. Those prior years of setting up a good foundation. And I think about this myself too. I mean, if I worked out, years before I started my business, which I did, I did work out years before my business. When things got very busy, I was still in good shape. You know what I mean? Maybe I didn't have the time to go to the gym every day because I had a ton of stuff I was building. I was working every day, all the time, barely sleeping. Maybe I couldn't make it to the gym every day, but I had a good foundation to where, okay, I've worked out for 2-3 years prior, like 5-6 days a week. If I take a day off to do something else constructive that's like necessary, then I can do that. And it's not, it's not a big detriment to me. So I think just setting up those foundations and understanding, what your purposes are, what your drivers are, is an important thing and is something that everybody needs to think about very early on, as soon as possible, and figure it out so that you can propel yourself forward. We talk about this opportunity meets preparation thing, right? Make sure you're prepared. If you're prepared for opportunity, when it comes by, it's not going to pass you by. You're going to be able to take advantage of it. And I think that happens to everybody. I think if you set up that foundation early enough, you're going to be able to take advantage of opportunities because you're prepared. You're prepared to. If you're not prepared to, it's just going to pass you by. And I've seen this happen so many times. And I'm not saying your life is over if you don't figure it out early on, but it's better to figure out things like this early on than later. So, because then you're not going to look back and say, oh, I missed out on that opportunity, right? So that's my thought process here. I could say a lot of things of, oh, well, you need to think like this. You need to think like this. You need to do this to start a business and to work out. You need to do this. Okay, well, the biggest thing is going to be your mental. Biggest thing is going to be your mental. So your mentality, your purposes, your morality, and where it stems from, and how you can logically think through things and value one over the other, and make those decisions is going to be important. So I think everybody should be investing in themselves in that way. You can do literally anything with your life. You can be in any position. You can be any career, any stage in your life, any age, any of that. And you can still do this. You can still sit down and think through these things and say, okay, I want to get here. So I need to reframe my mind and reframe why it's important. You know what I mean? So that's my point here. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you guys understand. And I'm wishing the best for all of you.